Hello students, welcome to Sri classes. We'll begin with the new chapter, chapter number 15, probability of your maths. There are some terms associated with this chapter. We must be very much familiar and we should know about these terms exclusively. You may expect 1 mark questions out of these initial introduction to the probability. So my request would be, make a note of all these things. You will not get at all this information anywhere. So it is preferable to note down all the information and just before the exam, once you go through this theoretical part. So what is probability? Okay, the title probability, terms associated with this chapter is what we are going to study. In that the formula, everything is covered. Probability, the measurement of uncertainty of a phenomenon, uncertainty of an activity numerically is called a probability. So in other words, the measurement of uncertainty means the measurement of chance numerically in the form of numbers is called probability. So probability is a measurement of uncertainty of a phenomenon or an activity numerically. What is an experiment? An activity performed with a definite objective is called an experiment. Example, tossing of a coin, throwing of a die, etc. What is random experiment? Suppose if I take a coin and throw it. Now, the getting of head or the getting of tail, there are equal chances. And therefore, this experiment, that is throwing of die, throwing of a coin, say for example 10 times. This is an activity with a definite objective. What is the objective? How many times head turned up and how many times tail turned up. So this entire activity can be considered to be a random experiment. It is called random experiment because the coin is a non-biased. It is not a biased coin, means it is symmetrical, perfect coin, so that whenever I throw it, it will not fall on the edge. It will either fall with a head on the top or tail on the top. That means out of the two possible outcomes, each outcome has an equal chances of coming up, and such an experiment is called random experiment. Suppose I will give you a coin where always whenever I throw a coin, I will get only king or a head, only head. In that case, that coin is called biased coin. In that case, the experiment is called biased experiment or not a random experiment. It is not a random experiment. It is a biased experiment. Random experiment, every outcome has equal probability. Whereas in a biased experiment, or simply if I say an experiment, in that the possibility of repetition exists continuously. If you throw a die, if you get continuously 1 on the top, then that is not a random experiment. So in a random experiment, all the outcomes which you can expect have equal probabilities, that you remember. So in an experiment, when repeated under identical conditions, do not produce the same outcome every time, but the outcome in a trial is one of the several possible outcomes. In that case, the experiment is called a random experiment. Example, tossing of a coin, one is not sure if a head or tail will be obtained. So it is a random experiment. Here, the experiment is called unbiased. If you get head continuously in several throws of a coin, then that experiment is not a random experiment. Remember that. So what is a random experiment? What is a random experiment? That is what you are going to get one question. Next, what is elementary event? An event having only one outcome is called an elementary event. For example, if I toss a coin, getting a head is an elementary event. Getting a tail also is an elementary event. Okay, when a die is thrown, getting any one of the numbers from 1 to 6 is an elementary event. Next, what is a compound event? It is an event in which more than one outcomes are possible. So an event having more than one outcomes is called a compound event. Example, in a single throw of die, getting an even number is a compound event because getting an even number when we throw a die are 2, 4, 6. These are the possibilities of getting even numbers, and individually these are elementary events, and therefore getting more than one elementary events in an event, it's called a compound event, or outcomes also you can say. So compound event is the combination of elementary events. Getting 2, 4 or 6 individually, it is an elementary event, but getting a combination of this even numbers 2, 4, 6, this is called a compound event. So once again, an event having more than one outcomes is called a compound event. In a single throw of die, getting even number, that is 2, 4, 6, is called a compound event. Next, what are complementary events? If E is an event, then not happening of an event E, which is denoted by E bar, is called its complementary event, and therefore E and E bar are complementary events. If E is happening of an event, then E bar is not happening of that event. Equally likely outcomes. If every outcome has equal possibility of occurrence, then the outcomes are called equally likely outcomes. For example, when we throw a fair die, not a unbiased die, it is thrown, we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, any out of these possibilities. So every outcome has equal chances of appearance, and therefore all the outcomes that we are going to get, on the top of the die when a die is thrown, are called equally likely outcomes. Equally unlikely outcomes. If one or more outcomes has an unequal possibility of occurrence, then the outcomes are called equally unlikely outcomes. For example, we will take a bag which contains 4 red balls and 1 blue ball. Randomly we will pick up 1 ball from the basket. So the probability of getting a red ball is more here compared to the blue ball, because more number of red balls are there. So drawing a red ball or drawing a blue ball out of a bag containing 4 red balls and 1 blue ball is an equally unlikely outcome. But drawing a ball of any color from the bag is equally likely outcome. I hope you are able to understand. Please read these things and carefully read it and try to understand it. Next, an approach to calculate the probability. There are 2 approaches for the calculation of the probability: empirical approach, which is also called an experimental approach, or classical probability or classical approach, which is also called a theoretical approach. Empirical approach you studied in your 9th standard. In this, probability of happening of an event is calculated based on the experiment that is already carried out. For example, in last year you have studied a coin was tossed 10 times and 7 times we got head. So what is the probability of getting head? Number of times head occurred divided by total number of trials. So that is how we used to calculate. So experimental probability of an event E, which is denoted by P of E, is given by P of E equals number of trials in which event E happened divided by total number of trials. So this is an experimental approach where already the experiment is carried, all the observations are recorded, and based on that the probability of particular observation can be calculated. Whereas theoretical probability, which is also called a classical probability, here we are going to predict the probability of an outcome based on certain assumptions. We are not going to carry out any experiment as such, but we can definitely predict the probability of an outcome based on certain assumptions. And the theoretical probability of an event E, written as P of E, is given by number of outcomes favorable to E divided by number of all possible outcomes of the experiment. So please remember, this 9th standard probability we are not going to study. Only the theoretical probability or classical probability is the one which is there for 10th standard. So we must know that probability of happening of an event given by P of E is equal to outcomes favorable to an event E divided by all possible outcomes of the experiment. Number of all possible outcomes of the experiment. So here number of outcomes favorable to event E divided by number of all possible outcomes of the experiment. This is how the probability is given. And one assumption is made over here. That assumption is, in an experiment all the outcomes are equally likely. We have to assume that all the outcomes are equally likely while calculating the probability by using theoretical probability theorem or the method. I hope you have understood. Make a note of all these things and try to memorize this. Next, few properties of the probabilities are given here. See, P of E means it is probability of an event E. What is the value of this one? It should be 0, 1 or between 0 and 1. The probability of any event, elementary event I am talking about, cannot be more than 1. Please remember, suppose if the probability of getting a head is 1.2, then it is wrong. It is not possible. So you may get a 1 mark question. Probability of state true or false. Probability of getting head when a coin is tossed is equal to 1.2. It is false. The reason, justification, probability of an event can never be greater than 1. So what are the possible values? It lies between 0 and 1. If the probability of an event is 0, such an event is called an impossible event. If the probability of an event is 1, which is called the sure event, SURE, sure event, or the certain event. So if the probability of a sure event is 1 and the probability of an impossible event is 0. I can give an example over here. See, when a die is thrown, what is the probability of getting the numbers from 1 to 6? It is 1 definitely, because any one of these numbers you are going to get it definitely. Okay, that is what a sure event. Now, the probability of an impossible event, suppose a bag contains 4 red balls and 1 blue ball. What is the probability of getting an orange ball? Definitely 0, because the bag does not contain orange ball at all, and therefore probability of an impossible event is 0, whereas probability of a sure event is 1. This you must know it. Now, one important fourth property is given here. See, in an experiment, the probability of all elementary events, the sum of probabilities of all elementary events should be 1, or indirectly I can say something like that. If E and E bar are complementary events, then the probability of an elementary event plus the probability of E bar which is not happening of that event is equal to 1. Once again, P of E plus P of E bar equals 1. The meaning of this statement is probability of happening of an event plus probability of not happening of that event is equal to 1. Or can I say something like this? Probability of not happening of an event is equal to 1 minus probability of happening of an event. That way also we use it. See, this formula is very important. I use many times this formula as the basis for calculations. So these are the four properties, and more to know. See, sometimes the calculations of probabilities and all is based on one formula which I use. P of E is equal to N of E by N of S. What is this N of E and what is this N of S, or what is this P of E? Here it is important. P of E means probability of happening of an event E. N of E means the outcomes favorable for E. N of E, here N represents the cardinal number, E represents a set basically. So E is an event and N of E means the number of favorable outcomes for an event E, and N of S means the number of all possible outcomes. So S is denoted for a sample space. S means a sample space. So sample space is nothing but the collection of all possible outcomes. So here I'll read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1, 2 and 3, so that it is very clear here. S denotes a sample space, which is a set of collection of all possible outcomes. S is a set. What is a set basically? A set is a collection of well-defined objects or elements. For example, if I write capital S into bracket this one, these are called elements, and this is a set. Set is a collection of well-defined elements which are written into curly brackets or flower brackets, and generally the sets are represented by capital alphabets A to Z. Now, S is specifically used to represent a sample space which is the collection of all possible outcomes. For example, when we throw a die, what are the all possible outcomes? The outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 which can come up, and therefore sample space is a collection of all these elements which can occur when we throw a die 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So sample space is the collection of all these objects. Now n of s, n is called the cardinal number, meaning n represents how many elements are there in this set. How many elements are there in this set? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 objects, or there are 6 elements in set S, and represented by n of s. N of s is equal to 6 here. Why this 6? Once again, how many objects are there? Count. This is first object, second object, third object, fourth object, fifth object, sixth object. So the number of elements present in a set is represented by a cardinal number n. N of s is equal to 6. Here n represents the cardinal number, which means a number of elements in set S. E denotes an event. When a die is thrown, getting even numbers is an event denoted by E, and therefore getting even numbers, event E, is equal to, what are the even numbers? 2, 4, 6. So E represents getting an event, it is an event of getting even numbers, and which is equal to a set of 2, 4, 6. So how many elements are there in this E? 3, 1, 2, 3, and number of elements in present in the E are called n of E equals 3 here. So how do you calculate the probability of getting an even number? Is given by P of E. What is E here? E denotes an event which is getting an even number. Getting even numbers is an event E here. So probability of getting an even number is equal to outcomes favorable to event E, which is nothing but n of E. That is, in the event E, how many elements are there? That is given by n of E is equal to 3. So probability of an event, which is nothing but probability of even number, is equal to n of E divided by n of s. N of E is here, you can see 3 here, and n of s is the sample space, which is 6, which is equal to half 0.5. See, I sometimes use this formula, which is quite helpful, or sometimes I'll write it. Writing will be in what? Probability of, into bracket, getting even numbers is equal to outcomes, number of outcomes favorable to getting even numbers divided by all possible outcomes. That way I can write it. So writing can be eliminated to some extent if you use this formula, but you should be aware of these terminologies. In all our toppers paper, if you look at, they use only this formula. P of E is equal to n of E by n of s. E can be here anything, F, G, H, I, J, K, etc. But S is exclusively used for a sample space. A sample space is a set of all possible outcomes, and n of s represents number of all possible outcomes. Similarly, E represents an event, and n of E represents the favorable outcomes, for the number of favorable outcomes. E is favorable outcome, and n of E is number of favorable outcomes. Okay. So anything is left? Let me check now. Yeah. One more last important thing. All possible outcomes. When a coin is tossed, all the possible outcomes are H and T. So sample space is HT. Number of all possible outcomes, n of s is equal to 2. Number of possible outcomes is also calculated by 2 to the power 1. Here 2 to the power n I will write. N represents the number of coins, number of dice, etc. Okay. Why this 2 here? All possible, a coin has got only 2 faces, head and tail, and therefore, see, into here 2 represents a number of possible outcomes, and to the power number of objects. Power is number of objects. Number of possible outcomes to the power number of things there. For example, if I take a coin, there are 2 possible outcomes. If I throw 1 coin, then 2 to the power 1 coin. If I throw 2 coins, 2 to the power 2 coins. If I throw 3 coins, 2 to the power 3 coins. So the number of outputs is given by 2 to the power n for a coin, 6 to the power n for a die, because all possible outcomes are 6, and 6 to the power 1 die, 6 to the power 1, 2 die, 6 to the power 3, 2, 3 dies, 6 to the power 3, something like that. So when a coin is tossed, all possible outcomes are H and T, that is given by sample space, and number of all possible outcomes is equal to n of s, which is 2, given by 2 to the power 1. When 2 coins are tossed, sample space is HT, HH, TH, TT. Head, H represents head, T represents tail. Here also H for head, T for tail. So when two coins are tossed, these are the sample space. So number of all possible outcomes, n of s, which is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 2 to the power 2. Here 2 represents the top, exponent represents the number of coins. When 3 coins are tossed, number of all possible outcomes is 2 to the power 3, which is equal to 8 here. How to write this one? First you write H, 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 T, T, H, T, T if 2 coins are tossed. Repeat that one, H, 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 T, T, H, T, T. Once behind all that put H, once behind all that put T. So totally 8 outcomes are there here. So when 3 coins are tossed, these are all possible outcomes. And number of possible outcomes, 8. When a die is thrown, S equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. N of S is equal to 6 to the power 1 equals 6. When 2 dice are thrown, number of all possible outcomes is equal to N of S is equal to 6 to the power 2. 6 is all possible outcomes. 2 refers to number of dice here, which is 36. So this is on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of first die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of second die, and all possible outcomes are 1, 1. This is 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6. This is how you can prepare a table. And if you count all these possible outcomes, there are 36 outcomes. So this is about the possible outcomes when a coin is tossed, when 2 coins are tossed, when 3 coins are tossed, when 1 die is thrown, and when 2 dice are thrown. Many questions will be coming from this one. And apart from this, you have a something like a pack of cards which are 52, and I will introduce to you about the cards on the board itself. Okay, so I think we have studied the basics. Anything is there? Yeah, nothing. So just a moment. So yeah, here we have completed. End of lecture 1 is also given. It is not end of lecture 1. I am going to solve some numericals also now. You have studied most important aspects of the probability parts. All these things you must note it down. If you do not know any of the things that we have discussed so far, then you are not prepared to solve the numericals. Please make a note of all this one. And now I'll start solving the numericals. Okay. Now we'll have a look at some example sums so that you can understand how this is solved in a textbook and also the alternate methods of solving the same numerical. Find the probability of getting a head when a coin is tossed once. Also find the probability of getting a tail. So here they define the events here. First of all, in the experiment of tossing of a coin once, the number of possible outcomes is 2, head and tail. So n of s, s is equal to h comma t, n of s is equal to 2 here. And see how they define an event. Let E be the event of getting a head. The number of outcomes favorable to E, that is of getting head, is 1, because to get getting of a number of outcomes favorable to event E, that is getting head, is only 1 there, and therefore probability of getting head equals number of outcomes favorable to E divided by number of all possible outcomes. Number of outcomes favorable to E is only 1 and number of possible outcomes 2 here, because a sample space contains 2 elements, and therefore probability of getting a head is half. Similarly, if F is event of getting a tail, then number of outcomes favorable for getting a tail out of this is, out of head and tail, 2 possible outcomes, number of favorable outcomes for tail is only 1 here, and therefore 1 divided by total number of possible outcomes. So P of S is equal to P of tail is equal to 1 by 2, which is simple one, you have understood. Next, see here, a bag contains a red ball, blue ball and yellow ball. All the balls are being of the same size. Kritika takes out a ball from the bag without looking into it. What is the probability that she takes out yellow ball? Total number of balls is equal to number of all possible outcomes is equal to total number of balls. A red ball, a blue ball, a yellow ball. One red, one blue, one yellow. So therefore 3. Total number of possible outcomes 3. Number of outcomes favorable for yellow ball, only 1, because there is only one yellow ball is there. So probability of getting an yellow ball is equal to number of outcomes favorable for yellow ball divided by number of all possible outcomes. So 1 divided by 3 here. Similarly for red ball, 1 divided by 3. Similarly for blue ball, 1 divided by 3. All these are elementary weights. If you add the probability of yellow ball plus probability of red ball plus probability of blue ball, which are represented by P of Y, P of R, P of E, you will get 1. 1 by 3 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 3, which is 3 by 3, which is equal to 1. So this is how you can solve this one, which is simple one. About the cards it is given, I will discuss later. Here, very interesting. This one. 2 players, Sangeeta and Reshma, play a tennis match. It is known that probability of Sangeeta winning match is 0.62. What is the probability of Reshma winning? See here. Probability of Sangeeta winning 0.62. Question, probability of Reshma winning. Probability of Reshma winning is equal to probability of Sangeeta losing. So how do you get Sangeeta losing? Sangeeta winning probability is 0.62. So probability of Sangeeta losing is equal to 1 minus probability of Sangeeta winning, 1 minus 0.62. That is the probability of Sangeeta losing. So probability of Reshma winning is equal to 1 minus probability of Sangeeta winning. So here probability of Sangeeta's winning is equal to probability of S is equal to given as 0.62, and probability of Reshma's winning is equal to 1 minus probability of Sangeeta winning. 1 minus probability of Sangeeta winning is nothing but probability of Sangeeta losing. Probability of Sangeeta losing is nothing but Reshma winning. So 1 minus P of S. So look at this one, study yourself, which is simple one. So this is a most important question. Savita and Hamida are friends. What is the probability that both will have different birthdays and same birthday, ignoring a leap year? If we ignore a leap year, then the number of days in a year are 365. Suppose, what is the birthday having on 2 different days? The birthdays of both Savita and Hamida should have different birthdays. To calculate these values, first we should know what are all possible outcomes. The number of all possible outcomes is equal to 365, because out of these 365 days, any one of the days the birthday will fall. So number of all possible outcomes is equal to 365, first point. Second, different birthdays. Suppose Savita's birthday falls on one day, then Hamida's birthdays can be 365 minus that one day, 364 days. That means the number of favorable outcomes for having different birthdays is equal to 365 minus 1, 364. And therefore, probability of getting different birthdays is equal to number of outcomes favorable for different birthdays, which is 364, divided by all possible outcomes, number of possible outcomes, which is 365. So here you can see 364 divided by 365. If Hamida's birthday is different from Savita's, the number of favorable outcomes for our birthday is 365 minus 1, 364. And therefore, probability of Hamida's birthday is different from Savita's birthday is 364 by 365. I hope you understood how this I got 364. I'll explain once again. See, we want Savita and Hamida's birthdays to be different on different days. Suppose Savita's birthday is on one particular day out of 365. So, to have different birthdays, Hamida's birthday should fall on the remaining 364 days. So, for that reason, for both birthdays to be different, the outcomes favorable will be 364. You got it? And therefore, favorable outcomes for different birthdays is 364 divided by total number of possible outcomes 365. What about on the same day? See, out of 365, it should be on the same day means there is only one day for which both the birthdays should be same, isn't it? And therefore, number of favorable outcomes for the same birthday of Savita and Hamida is only one, because on the same day they should have birthdays, and therefore the probability of getting Savita's and Hamida's birthday on the same day is equal to outcomes favorable for same birthday divided by number of all possible outcomes. So number of outcomes favorable for the same birthday is 1 divided by total number of possible outcomes is 365. So that is 1 divided by 365, where it is given 1 divided by 365. You can also calculate this 1 by 365 as, see here, probability of Savita and Hamida have same birthday is equal to 1 minus probability of having birthday on different days. So having the birthday on the same day and having a birthday on different day, these are two complementary events over here. So this way also you can calculate it. So make a note of this. There are 40 students in class 10th of a school whom 25 are girls and 15 are boys. Totally 40 students. Number of girls 25. Number of boys 15. The class teacher has to select one student as a class representative. She writes the name of each student on a separate card, and the cards are being identical. Then she puts the cards in a bag and stirs them thoroughly. She then draws one card from the bag. What is the probability that the name written on the card is the name of a girl? So probability of the name, what is the probability that the name written on the card is the name of the girl or name of a boy? So we know there are totally 40 students. Number of all possible outcomes is 40. Outcomes favorable for a card with the name of a girl is equal to 25, because there are 25 girls. And outcomes favorable for the card written with the name of the boy is, number of outcomes favorable for a card with the name of a boy is 15, because there are 15 boys. So probability of a card with the name of a girl is equal to P of girl is equal to outcome favorables for a card with the name girl, which is 25, divided by total number of students. That is total possible outcomes is 40. So 5 by 8. Similarly, probability of getting a card with the name boy is equal to P of boy is equal to number of outcomes favorable to a card written with the name boy, which is 15, divided by 40 students. So 3 by 8. So 5 by 8 and 3 by 8. Now these two are complementary events in this experiment. So if you add the probability of this plus probability of this, you will get 1 once again, because the sum of probabilities of complementary events should be 1. So I hope you have understood how to calculate the probability of students here. Next. Okay. A box contains 3 blue, 2 white, 4 red marbles. If a marble is drawn at a random from the box, what is the probability that it will be white, blue, red? Okay. Total number of balls, 3 blue, 2 white, 4 red. 3 red, 5, 4, 9. There are 9 balls here. So, probability of getting a white ball is equal to number of outcomes favorable for a white ball, which is 2, divided by total number of outcomes, which is 9. So, 2 by 9 is the probability of getting a white ball. Now, what about a blue ball? Outcomes favorable for getting a blue ball is equal to number of blue balls, which are those 3 here. So, 3 divided by 9. Probability of getting a blue ball is equal to 3 divided by 9. What is the probability of getting a red ball? Probability of getting a red ball is equal to number of outcomes favorable for red marbles. Okay, I am talking about, I am calling as a ball here. Marbles also okay, balls also okay. There should not be a problem. So, number of getting red marbles is, number of outcomes favorable for red marbles is 4 divided by total number of outcomes, which is 3 plus 2 plus 4, 9. So, 4 by 9. So, this is how you can calculate the probability of different marbles here. White can be represented as P of W. W is an event of getting white, B is an event of getting blue marble, and R is an event getting red marble. So, P of W, P of B, P of R also you can write. Okay, this is how you can calculate the probability. This is simple. And if you add those, all the sum of this probability will be 1 over here. I hope you are able to get this. See here, interesting one fact is, probability of getting a white ball is equal to 1 minus probability of getting a blue ball or a red ball. That way also is possible. Okay, you can calculate that way also. Harpreet tosses 2 different coins simultaneously. Say one is rupee 1 and another is rupees 2. What is the probability she gets at least one head? See, 2 different coins throwing simultaneously, or 2 coins or 1 coin throwing 2 times, both are same. You must consider here. See, what I am saying is, here this is 2 different coins are thrown simultaneously, but for your information, tossing 2 coins simultaneously one time, or tossing 2 coins, or tossing a 1 coin 2 times, both are same. Okay, anyway, Harpreet tosses 2 different coins simultaneously, 1 rupee coin and another 2 rupee coin. What is the probability that she gets at least one head? If 2 coins are thrown, what are all possible outcomes? 4 outcomes. Which are those things? HH, HT, TH, TT. Outcomes favorable for getting at least one head. At least one head means, favorable for at least one head is 1, 2, 3. 3 outcomes are there. TT, there is no head appearing, and therefore probability of getting at least one head is equal to 2 heads it can be, but at least one head. So 2 heads I have to consider. So 1, 2, 3. Out of all possible 4 outcomes, 3 outcomes are favorable for getting at least one head, and therefore number of outcomes favorable for at least one head is HH, HT, TH, which are 3 here. Therefore, probability of getting at least one head is equal to number of outcomes favorable for getting one head, which is 3, divided by total number of possible outcomes, which is 4. 3 by 4 is the answer for this question. Okay, this is how you can find out. See, probability of getting at least one head is probability of 1 minus probability of getting no head. That also you can work out. 1 minus probability of getting no head is what he has written. The probability of Harpreet gets at least one head is 3 by 4. Probability of E is 1 minus P of not E, no head. Probability of getting at least one head is equal to probability of 1 minus probability of no head. That also is possible. You can see this one. So, musical chair game. Okay, this game you read yourself. I will explain in my next lecture. This is important. You will get this question. even though not from the examination point of view, you have to understand this one. Okay. So let us see very quickly. We'll rush through how he writes the book. In your textbook it is given. Let's see. In chair game, the person playing the music has been advised to stop playing the music at any time within 2 minutes after she starts playing. What is the probability that the music will stop within the first half minute after starting? That means the person playing the music has been advised to stop playing the music at any time within the 2 minutes after she starts playing, within 2 minutes. What is the probability that the music will stop within the first half minute itself from the starting? Let's see how it is solved. Here the possible outcomes are all the numbers between 0 and 2. Correct. Means between 0 and 2 minutes, all the numbers on the number line represent the possible outcomes. This is the portion of the number line from 0 to 2. This is the number line from 0 to 2. 0 to 2, all the numbers are all possible outcomes. Okay, next. Let E be the event that music be stopped within first half minute. So event E is defined as music being stopped within the first half minute. So what is the outcomes, number of outcomes favorable for E? On a number line between 0 to half are all the points that are favorable for E. So the outcomes favorable to E are the points on the number line from 0 to half. The distance from 0 to 2 is 2, while the distance from 0 to half is half, and therefore since all the outcomes are equally likely, we can argue that the total distance of 2, the distance favorable to event E is half. Out of the total distance of 2, the distance favorable to event E is half. So P of E, probability of an event that the music be stopped within the first half minute, is equal to distance favorable to the event E divided by total distance in which the outcomes can lie. So distance favorable to the event E is half, and the total distance in which outcomes can lie is 2, 0 to 2, which is equal to 1 by 4. This is how we can calculate the probability. Now, very interesting. Please make a note of this sum and mark it also. Now, here the probability is related to the geometric diagrams. So, let me take a break here, 1 minute pause, and then I'll explain this. Here, this numerical is related to a geometrical figure. So let us read this question very carefully. A missing helicopter is reported to have crashed somewhere in the rectangular region as shown in figure 15.2. A missing helicopter must have crashed in this entire region. This is the diagram given. What is the probability that it is crashed inside the lake as shown in the figure? So do you understand here? So thing is, as the helicopter can be crashed anywhere in this entire region, isn't it? So the total area of this region is 9 km into 4.5 km. This is the entire region, equivalent to number of all possible outcomes. What is the probability that it crashed inside the lake? Let us find out the area of the lake. How do you calculate? 9 km minus 6, from here to here it is 3 km. What about from here to here? This is 4.5 minus 2. So this is 2.5. So this is 3 and this is 2.5. So probability that the helicopter crashed inside the lake is equal to area of the lake divided by area of the total region. So 2.5 into 3 divided by 9 into 4.5. This is how we can calculate. So for the geometrical figures, the desired area will be the outcome favorable to a particular event, and the total area is equivalent to all possible outcomes. So probability that the helicopter is crashed in the lake is equal to area of the lake divided by area of the entire region. So this is how we calculate the probabilities. So you can see here the helicopter is equally likely to crash anywhere in the region. So area of the entire region is 40.5 square kilometer, and area of the lake is 7.5 kilometers, 2.5 into 3, which is 7.5 square kilometers, and therefore probability of helicopter crashed in the lake is equal to area of the lake by entire region area of the entire region, 7.5 by this, you will get 5 by 27. Okay, so I hope you understand how to calculate the probabilities, dear students. From example number 12, with all this exercise I'll be completing in my next lecture. So for the time being, let us end the lecture over here. Please make a note of all these things and solve all the example sums till 11 which we have looked into so far, which is quite easy, not difficult. Of course, I'll be taking up much more complicated numericals. Also, the cards will be explained in my next class, and some complicated questions along with the exercise questions will be taken. And these questions I can take it from R.D. Sharma and previous year also. So for the time being, let me end the lecture over here and see you in the next lecture with the exercise and R.D. Sharma numericals. Thank you for watching.